The God Complex in Matt Smith's run of Doctor Who was one of the best Doctor Who episodes in my opinion, and it'd be interesting to look at different characters throughout Doctor Who and see what they would have in their rooms, if they went in them. I'll go through all the different characters from Doctor Who, mainly the main characters or companions, along with some extra additions. I won't go along with the side characters because there are way too many of them, but we'll focus on the main ones and see what they have in their rooms. So with the people who we've already seen the rooms of, being Amy and the 11th Doctor, Amy had a version of herself as a young girl waiting for the Doctor. I think that actually fits in line with her character, and I don't think there would be anything else she would see. It could be her seeing Rory being left alone, but I have a feeling that it wouldn't really work, and I feel like her having seen her younger version of herself, it fits very much in line with her character. With the 11th Doctor, we also had the mention of him seeing the cracks in time that he kept seeing over the Amy Pond era of his run, but I also think he might see the children of Gallifrey that he let die all be in one room. I think it'd be interesting that could be a thing he could see, because it would be a massive fear of his, seeing all of the people who he let die during the Time War. Now, Rory didn't have a room. It was mentioned that because he has no faith in anything, he therefore doesn't have a room. But say if he did have a faith in something, I think his room would be seeing Amy run off with the Doctor and leave him by himself, or see them get into a relationship and leave him behind. I feel like that would be his biggest fear, because Amy is the biggest person in his life. I feel like because we have seen so many times with him not liking the fact that Amy is with the Doctor so much, and when he comes back in Vampires of Venice and he says that she attempted to kiss him, you can see his reaction throughout that entire episode, so I feel like it would be something to do with Amy leaving him behind to go with the Doctor. Now, moving on to the characters we haven't seen, I feel like the 10th Doctor would see a room full of his companions, either that they don't know who he is and they never travelled with him, or a room full of his companions that he let die. So it would be Rose, Martha, and Donna, and all the other people who he's come across, all being dead in one room, because I feel like that's his biggest fear, that he causes so much death, and that was shown in episodes like Journey's End, where Davros had mentioned all of the people that he let die because of his actions. I feel like that would be what would be in his room, all of his companions dead, or all of his companions not knowing who he is, just like Donna. I feel like the 12th Doctor would see a room where Clara sees him as a monster, and never saw him as anything else but a monster, and didn't even see him as the Doctor further than the 11th Doctor. I feel like in Deep Breath, his whole motivation was to let her see him as the Doctor, and I feel like his biggest fear is her never seeing him as anything but a monster, which is quite sad, but I feel like that would be what he sees, or similar to the other Doctors, he sees all the people that he let die because of him, like Clara and Bill, which is so sad, but it's a possibility. The 9th Doctor would see the entirety of the Time War, because I feel like that it leads on from him being the War Doctor, and immediately going into the 9th Doctor with having everything that has happened to him in the Time War be his main motivation as to why he does things. I feel like he would see, once again, like the 11th Doctor, a room full of all of the children that he let die during the Time War, or even all the Daleks being the last ones to survive, and there being no more Time Lords anymore. Because that's his main motivation throughout the 9th Doctor's run, of trying to get that image out of his mind, but he can't when he walks into a room like that. Rose Tyler would see the Doctor never having met her. I feel like she would see a room where she's in her shop working, like we see when in season 1, where she is living this mundane life with her mother, doing these same things over and over again. I feel like that would be her biggest fear, of never having met the Doctor and never having gone on those adventures and living a normal life, because that's what we see whenever she has to go back to Earth and go back to her mum. She hates it, and I feel like her room would be never having met the Doctor. Martha would see a room full of all of her family dead. That is the main thing that keeps being said over and over again in her run in Doctor Who, that she's leaving her family behind. And we see when the Master comes as well, that she wants her family to live. She wants her family to be safe. And travelling with the Doctor makes that not a possibility. So I feel like she will probably see a room full of all of her family dead, or a room full of all of her family at her funeral, because she's died in the service of the Doctor, which would be an interesting thing to see. Now, Donna's a little bit different. I feel like she would see the death of her granddad, because she's running off with the Doctor and leaving her family behind and doesn't really think about it. But when she comes back to Earth, she realises her family is still there and she really loves them. And her main person in her life, aside from the Doctor, is her granddad. So I feel like she would see that, or she would see her mother at her granddad's funeral, saying that she was never there because she's off running with the Doctor. River Song, similarly to Rose Tyler, would probably never have seen the Doctor. Her room would be her by herself, probably living a normal life. She had never had the parallel of her life living alongside the Doctor's, so she would never know him. She would never get married to him, and she would never have her last moments with the Doctor. I feel like her room would be her by herself, having no adventures, or her in a cell, seeing herself in prison for something she doesn't know she's done, because she's never met the Doctor, so she doesn't know why she's there. For Clara, there's two ways you can go about it. It's either Clara seeing all of her different selves all in one room and the Doctor not being there, so she's never ever met the Doctor, similar to other companions as well. Or it's a room where she sees both her mother and father never having a child, so her existence never happened, which could have been a possibility because her life was created by chance. The same with her differing timelines, so it could be either or. But I feel like her seeing a room with her mum and dad in, never having a child, would be awful, and probably her biggest fear, never having been born and never having met the Doctor. Now, there's two different ways you can look at this one. So we've got the Master, which is John Sims' Master, and then Missy. John Sims' Master would probably see the Doctor living a happy life without him, and never being a part of his life. So the chaos that he brings to the Doctor's life would have never happened, and he sees the Doctor living a life with all of his companions where there's nothing that really happens. He will either not exist, or his life will never coincide with the Doctor. And with Missy, it would be the 12th Doctor, or any of the Doctors, never seeing her as a friend, always as an enemy, never saying that they even like them, because Missy's whole thing is wanting the Doctors to see them. And if that never happens, I feel like that would be her biggest fear, because her whole life revolves around being with the Doctor and playing with his life. But if that never happens, then what's her purpose? I feel like that's also the same with Sacha Dhawan's Master, where if they never met the Doctor, what is their purpose? We see in Power of the Doctor that they just want to be the Doctor. So maybe they have never met the Doctor at all, and that's their biggest fear, because what is their purpose in life? I missed her off, but the 13th Doctor, so Jodie's Doctor, I feel like would see every single person just ignoring her and not seeing her as the Doctor because she's a woman. I feel like if she had a room, it would be every single person that she knew not knowing who she is, and even her saying that she's the Doctor, they would not see it, and they would actually refuse the idea because she is a woman. I feel like that's now that I think about it, would be such a great story of no one believing that she's the Doctor because she's not like any of the other Doctors we've seen. See, Chibnall, you should have wrote something like that. We had such a little snippet of it in her run where a character had said, "Oh, but the Doctor's not a woman." We could have had so much more of people not believing her but I feel like that would be what would be in her room, of everyone she's ever met, including companions that she's met, not knowing who she is because of who she is. But that's pretty much everyone. I have probably missed a couple of people off, but these are the main couple of ones where I wanted to kind of explore what would be in their rooms in God Complex. But yeah, let me know what you thought about that, and if you have any differing opinions, because I'd like to know. I feel like it's a really interesting thing to bring up, because we only saw really a couple of people, including side characters in those episodes, going into their rooms and seeing what they would have. But it's interesting. So I'd like to know what other people have opinions on. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed. If you want any similar videos to this, let me know. But yeah. Stay safe, be kind.